Alright guys, we're gonna rip out this AVIC-Z140BH and install a smaller 1-DIN Pioneer DEH-80PRS. This is a 2013 Scion FRS, and just to show you how easy it is to get the stereo out of here, figured I'd show you that step. So, no tools, I'm just going to use my fingers. This is just a panel that covers up over the passenger side. This is just a little thing that I attached to the dash. It's pretty well stuck, but yeah, there we are. We can pull it off, and then this is actually held on by hardware, but pull that off, put a finger under here, and it's just held on by snap fits. Okay, that comes off pretty easy. You can see there's a snap here, remnants of the last ones here, a couple of guide snaps. And this here is also held on by snap fits. There we are, 4 snap fits. You can see where I screwed that mount onto the back of this, just to make it easy for the iPhone. And we're pretty much right here. We just got, you can see the Apple 30 pin to Pioneer that I had installed, and I put heat shrink over it. And there's 4, I believe it's 10mm bolts holding this thing in. And so I'm going to cut this and grab the tool and pull that out. Okay, we're back. I got a driver with a 10mm tip, and we're going to pull this out. Alright guys, one other thing to note is what we actually got going on here with the 2-DIN. If you look, it looks like there's an adapter plate here, which was probably attached to make it fit in the car, and a little flange here to make it fit the front of the dash. That's true of both sides. Adapter plate, a flange to make it fit in the Scion dash. Whole lot of connections back here. Of course, the best way is to look at the manual to figure out what's all going on there. Most of that stuff was plugged in, so some of, not all of it, but figured out something interesting that I kind of knew, but it's pretty cool to see it in black and white. And if you look real closely here, I have to get a picture, but that sticker right there says Windows Automotive 5.5 Basic, and some serials and whatnot. That's probably why this head unit is so slow. I think it's running a version of Windows. So way too much operating system for car stereo. But we're going back to old school, simple, and we'll get that in a second. Alright guys, we're making progress. I'm in the process of putting together this holder for the radio. Basically these things slide on the side, they just kind of clip in here. And then there's 2 little screws in the back that hold these side clips together. And there's a bunch of extra bits on here that you have to cut off. I don't know, stuff that looks like kind of like this, and they're on the back for different mount applications, but you don't need them. It's pretty easy to figure out that for this radio you need these 4, and it's just going to sit in here like this, and then the 10mm will go back in. And here's the trim ring that came with the Pioneer. Just mounted it on the side. Decided not to use the DIN mount or the ISO mount. Seemed to be pretty good just mounting it right on the plastic with the screws here. You can adjust where it sits to get it flush. And just kind of dropped it in there. It's looking like it's going to work out pretty well. It's going to sit like that. And this is going to sit in here a little bit like that. I'm not going to snap it in right now. It's going to look about like that. So we will get to tending to the wiring and be back in a second. Okay, so what I ended up doing here is this is the finalized wiring harness. Looks pretty clean actually, much better than the one that came out of it, but this goes into the back of the radio. These 2 go into here. This one goes into here. And this goes into the back of the radio as well for the antenna. So the blue wire that came out, the blue and the white wire that comes out of the radio, I connected to this as well as over here. And so this blue one over here is connected to the power antenna. Also here, I'm not sure which one is powering the amp, but one of them is. That's how it was connected before. I just spliced it into both again. So let's see how it works. Alright guys, so I got this fully installed. As you can see, I've got all the panels back on. I think it turned out alright. Looks pretty good in here, relatively speaking. I think the big touchscreen radios look a little nicer, but for what this cost and for what it does, and being that it's easier and much faster, I prefer this setup. So I'll show you a little bit how it works. So right now we're running the USB 2, which is plugged in right over here. It's just a thumb drive I've got hidden in my dash in the glove box, and that's 64 gig, and it seems to be handling just fine. It says in the manual it does 15,000. It can address 15,000 tracks. That's a lot, guys. You've got USB inside the thing, plus another SD card plugged in. That's 30,000 total, plus however much you could fit on your iPhone or whatever other phone. That's a lot of music, guys. So to operate this, you just go inside here, press this button here, and you can go in the folders. You can see my Mac put some kind of garbage in here, but then you can just go inside the folder, LMFAO, go start playing some element. Now you notice as soon as I change the folder, it went to random. I don't really like that, actually. So now if I skip another track, it'll go to anything else. Like I was in LMFAO, now I'm in Miguel Miggs, because it changed the folder, it changed the track, because we're fully random. I don't like that. To get back to LMFAO, you got to go back in the folder here. If you want it to stay in the folder and randomize just in the folder, here's what you got to do. You got to press in on the multi-controller, they call it. You go to function, play mode, all repeat. You want track repeat, you want folder repeat, and then now it'll do just the folder, except one more thing. For whatever reason, it turns random off, so now you got to turn random back on. Then you got random on, and play mode, folder repeat. So now, if you skip tracks, it'll stay in that LMFAO, and it says folder random right here. So it stays there, and then you can use this to skip tracks. But as soon as you change your folder, let's see, Little Richard. Listen to some Little Richard. Now notice it went back to random. I really don't like that feature. I wish they would fix that. But here's a workaround. In settings, play mode, in again, folder repeat, back down random on, and now we're random in our folder again. It works like that, same as USB and also for the SD card. So anyway, that's how you do that. To go to an SD card, you hit source over here, and we just change source to SD card. So now we're in SD card. This, I last set it in folder random for the particular playlist I have. On my SD card, I organized my kind of iTunes playlist by the quarter when I buy it. 2009, 2013, 2013, 2013, Q4. And so anyway, this is music I bought in the first quarter of 2013. And notice I went back to random because I just changed the folder. Oops. Folder repeat, and then, oops. Random back on. So now we'll stay in that same folder. So again, that works the same way for SD and then the USB flash drive I've got plugged in. Remember, this unit has an SD reader. It has two USBs. One I've got my iPhone plugged in, and then one I've got the USB flash drive plugged in, which is a super cool feature. The AVIC did not have all that type of digital inputs. So we're listening to music, and I guess just to show you again the sources, Bluetooth audio will do Bluetooth streaming from your phone or Android or whatever thing. It will not do CD text on Bluetooth audio, except that it does say on the Pioneer website that there is a firmware update. I haven't had a chance to apply that yet. I do not have a Windows 7 laptop. Mine is a MacBook Pro. I'm going to borrow a buddy's and update that so I get the CD text, or the, the album art, all that stuff. Not album art, what the song is, the artist, all that type of stuff. But anyway, I don't have that feature yet. Works okay. Tuner is tuner, works fine. Here, this is sort of Seek, and I think this is presets up here. So a tuner's a tuner. I don't listen to FM a whole lot. To set your presets, again, you go to function here, and you just press and hold this, and it will find your strongest stations. And then you can cycle through them and pick them. You can use this search to get back to that cycle pick thing, or I think it's these to skip through them. 95.5. So that's the tuner. Hit the source button again. To USB 1 is my iPhone. So this is what I last left my iPhone in. If you want to change what you see, just keep cycling through display. So this is nothing. Looks like artist and track, artist disc, disc track. Disc or track plus progress, and then track, artist, disc, which is the way I like it, but you can cycle through all those modes depending on how you like to view the text. If you want to do more fancy stuff on your phone, you can do that. You can do anything you want. iPhone is pretty much standard. The text gets a little messed up. This doesn't do the best job pulling all the text off your iPhone, but it will work. So if you want to, for example, listen to Songza back. Okay, we've got our Songza working. You can use this to skip tracks. And it works, and the text is working because I pressed this. But what I found is, if you press these controls here, it'll skip. But it worked that time. Sometimes you don't get the text to come through when you use the soft controls. I don't know. It kind of works. Sometimes it doesn't work other times. So that's Songza, Last.fm. There's so many of these good apps, guys. Make sure you check it out. It's pretty cool. If you haven't seen the latest DJ, I don't recommend scratching in your car, guys, but you could set up some auto mixing or something, which is kind of cool. So, there's all kinds of cool apps. All of them will stream through over USB. It all works over Bluetooth as well. You may not get the best experience with text, but it'll work. Of course, there's Pandora, and this does have a direct integration with Pandora, which people expect these days. You click on the Pandora app, it will automatically switch to Pandora mode, and it will read my playlist. Notice it blanks out the screen, but that's fine. They want you to operate it from your radio anyway, which is supposed to be a simpler interface. Hit the search button, and these are some different stations I've listened to. 80s alternative. And of course you can press this to skip tracks. So that all works fine. Pandora, blah blah blah. So what else is cool about this radio? What's really cool about this radio is the hi-fi features. Super hi-fi radio. I am not using a lot of that in this car right now. It's just literally radio connected directly to the speakers. But if you connect amplifiers to this thing, man, does it sing. This is the best sounding radio I've ever heard, guys. Absolute best. It sounds great in normal mode. And then if you change the network to a bi-amplified mode or three-way mode, it sounds heavenly. Absolutely heavenly. You need a 4-channel amp for each 2 speakers if you're doing tweeter and mid, if you're going to do bi-amplified. I won't talk about bi-amplified much here because I don't have it, but if you're going to go hardcore, guys, do it. It sounds awesome. You will be amazed. You can remove all passive crossovers. It sounds awesome. I'm not doing it yet in this car. I'll talk about it later if I get into it that deep. But that's just the basic sound quality. Part of what makes it so awesome is you hit EQ here, and I've got a custom EQ. This is just a little thing they show for a graphic. You just keep hitting it and you can cycle through. Custom 2, so you can have 2 custom EQs. Super bass is one of their presets. Powerful, natural, vocal, flat. And I'm going to go back to custom, and I'm going to go in and customize this EQ. This EQ is amazing, guys. So function, audio, entertainment, illumination. Let's go to audio. Graphic EQ 1 and 2. This does not mean the first custom graphic EQ and the second graphic EQ, which is bad user interface on behalf of Pioneer. Graphic EQ 1 means the setting grouping 1, and graphic EQ 2 means the settings of grouping 2. And subwoofer 1, front high pass filter 1, front high pass filter 2, rear high pass filter 1 and 2. Auto EQ on and off, I'll talk more about that. Automatic sound levelizer. That allows the volume to go up and down based on your speed, and it reads your microphone. Source level adjuster allows you to add or subtract a little bit of your source. This is a little bit of quiet radio, so I added 2 decibels. I thought it helped that out a little bit. Fader balance, position, front left, whatever, left right, front rear. Time alignment is for doing all your time corrections. We'll talk more about that later. Loudness on off, I usually leave it off. Okay, so let's go back to graphic equalizer 1. You go in here. This is where you actually pick what EQ you want to set in graphic equalizer 1. That's not so cool. You can already do that when you're out in the main screen. Graphic equalizer 2 allows you to actually sit and customize this thing, which is super cool. And this is a 16-band equalizer, which is absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. So we start with 20, we've got 31.5, 50, 80 hertz, 125 hertz, 200 hertz, 315 hertz, 500 hertz, 800, 1.25 kilohertz, 2 kilohertz, 3.15, 5, 8, 12.5, 20 kilohertz, 16-band equalizer. That is awesome. You can totally tweak this into how you want it to sound. As you can see, this is kind of how I set mine up. I added a little treble because these speakers are factory. They're not very bright. I added a little bass, kind of like high bass, 80, 125, 200. I did not add really low bass because, trust me, 6-inch woofers are just going to distort if you add a lot of 20 hertz, 30 hertz, 50 hertz. That's dumb, guys. Just add a little bit of the upper end of the bass spectrum if you're rocking 6. If you got a sub or whatever, play with all that. That's cool. I don't have that in here, so I added a little here. If I add down here, it's just going to distort. This is what I add. So if I wanted to adjust, like for example 200, I rock this back and forth, and I can add and subtract. And you just go to different frequencies, and you can add and subtract. Super awesome, super awesome. Back out of here. And so now auto EQ on and off. Auto EQ I have on. If you use the supplied microphone, plug it into the front right here, like this, and then I'll show you how to start that. You can go through an auto EQ process. It does a pretty good job, guys. I gotta say, it does a pretty good job on this radio. Haven't generally been a fan of auto EQ, but in this radio, it does a really good job. Turn it on or off. Now here's what else is cool about this radio. Even though auto EQ is on, guys, it's running auto EQ. When I'm over here, in EQ, I can adjust this on top of auto EQ. So this is not separate from auto EQ. This is in addition to auto EQ. That's a super cool feature of this radio because, like with my AVIC, if you auto EQ it and you want to customize the equalizer, you cannot. You have to turn auto EQ off in order to customize the equalizer. With this radio, you can get close with auto EQ and then tweak it a little bit to your flavor with the individual controls. That's super cool because you might get pretty close with auto EQ and just want to tweak it a bit. But with like the AVICs that you spent a lot of money on, it did not allow me to do that on my Z140BH. So this is how it should be, and I'm so glad it works this way. Much better sound that way. Auto EQ will time align your speakers, all that good stuff. Or you can do it manually, of course, but if you want to save yourself a lot of time and trouble and personal tweaking, you get pretty close and then you can tweak it a little. That is a great feature. So that's some of the audio features. Again, this has a 3-way network mode, which unlocks a lot more features. There's a little switch under the radio. You press the switch, and then you reset the IC chip, which is, there's a little reset button after I pull this face off. And it exposes a whole bunch of different modes in the radio, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you get into that, try that out. Just to show you where the SD card is at. SD card's right here, guys. Just pop that out. And the reset is right here. Just use a ballpoint pen, something like that. You could probably even put that in there and reset it. I don't want to do it right now because it's working fine. There's the SD. To put this thing back on, it's a little funky. You just kind of line it up. Press in like that. How does this sound compared to the AVIC? Well, according to the specs, it has the same amplifier specs, 22 watts per channel, continuous. Both this and the AVIC have the same spec. It sounds a little weaker than the AVIC in my personal opinion until you really crank it. It's like not much happens, 10, 20, 30, around 30 or 40, then the action starts happening. I don't really like that I have to turn the radio up so high to get it to start making noise, but I wish it got louder faster. But it works fine. You just have to keep cranking that thing till you get to 30 or so. That sort of thing. So I wish that they calibrated that a little bit different. Even when I had this radio in an older car I sold with a huge stereo, I still didn't really like the way the volume knob was calibrated, but it's just a minor complaint. So again, we got slacker rocking, and we're gonna kill this thing and watch how fast it takes for it to start again. And a couple seconds, and boom, we're right back to slacker where we left off. Absolutely awesome, absolutely awesome. We're not sitting here waiting for 30 seconds, and then it cycles back to our iPod, which is the problem I had with the AVIC. Absolutely awesome. Embedded controllers, guys, no Windows. Now, let's really challenge it and try Bluetooth. So I'm gonna remove this, and we have nothing now, we're not connected. We're gonna go to Bluetooth. Look, ma, no wires. And we're going to get our slacker going again. And change the source on your radio. Okay, this is where you say the output of your phone. iPhone meaning through the speaker on the iPhone. 80PRS is Bluetooth into the 80PRS. Again, there's no text. Apparently Pioneer has a firmware update. I haven't applied it yet. So we're rocking and rolling. I'm going to turn this off. And it pauses. And we're going to turn it back on, see how long it takes. Let's see, is it ready? Let's see. No, it's still booting. Okay, there it goes. A few seconds. So let's find out how long that was. I'm gonna pause that. Let's get the stop. Well, I almost need a separate stopwatch. But I think we could probably tell by when the text here comes up. So I'm gonna kill it. Turn it back on. Says ready, but it's not ready. I think when it says Jake 5, it'll be ready. No service. Not yet ready. And boom, Jake 5. 17 seconds. So I'm pretty sure it's ready now. Yeah. So about 17 seconds. Still much, much better than the Bluetooth on the AVIC, which took about a minute for that to happen. So if you really want to do Bluetooth, let's do it again. Here's another thing. You could just have your phone playing, and you should just grab it and go. Yep, there it goes. Grab and go. Not too bad. I'm okay with that. I was not okay with waiting a minute. So we're on Bluetooth. Again, all this stuff works fine. And you can skip tracks on Bluetooth. Should be able to. Try again. Not allowing us to skip tracks right now. Maybe you can't skip tracks. Maybe that's part of the firmware update too. Yeah, it's not doing it. I think the firmware update will cover that, skipping tracks on Bluetooth. Just a few other things to show you that are important to know. We got it off. In order to enter the setup mode, you press and hold this media multi-control button. English, or whatever language, calendar for setting the date, clock for setting the time. You know. Engine alert, I forget what that is. I don't need it. Music browse, I forget what that is. I don't need it. Warning tone is, it'll beep when you turn it off. Aux 1 is the front analog jack. Aux 2 is the rear. It's got rear analog RCAs for input as well. Input here, input in the rear. Dimmer, this is another really thing that was kind of dumb on Pioneer's behalf, is the dimmer is default to off. I was so confused why the dimmer doesn't work. Well, it does now, but you have to turn it on in the setup thing, and it's not in the first setup that initially comes when you power on the radio. You have to go into that setup mode. That's kind of dumb. Contrast, I've got it maxed out. It looks the best maxed out in my opinion. Digital ATT, high and low. High is the default, meaning you get the full sound out of your CDs. If you put it on low, it compresses the sound a little bit from what I read in the manual. If you have like loud CDs or something, I don't know. I leave it on high. Audio reset is to reset the equalizer, I think. Internal amp on is for the amplifier for the sound coming out of the thing. Big systems where you're hooking everything through RCAs, turn this off. You'll get a little cleaner sound. But when you're hooking speakers directly to this, leave it on. You need it. Demonstration mode, you know, it just cycles through all this stuff. Ever scroll is to keep scrolling the text for the track names. I like that. Leave it on. Clear memory. Bluetooth, the hardware version. Again, I need to update this. This is for software update mode. So that is in the media press and hold media controller setup. There's another thing. If you press and hold EQ, this is how you start the automatic time align. You just press this one more time and it'll start it. But I'm not going to do that. I've already time aligned it. And alright, one other thing I want to mention about that's super cool is the configuration of the Illumination and the entertainment. I could care about the entertainment, but some people will care. I leave it to simple. There's all kinds of little movies, a clock, you know. Spectrum analyzer is kind of cool, but the way they've shaded it looks kind of dumb to me, so I don't use it. We got another one that's sort of cool, but level meter. These are all feeding off your music too, guys. I just leave it on simple so I could just see the text. That's all I care about. But it's cool that it's there. One of the coolest things is the Illumination. You've got key, display, and key plus display. So you can configure this area and this area separately or together as key plus display. If I go to key, I got a custom color, which is basically just a really light red. But you can configure that to anything you want. White, coral, red, orange. There's like 20 or 30 of these guys. It's ridiculous. But what's even more ridiculous, in a good way, press and hold on custom. And you can actually set your RGB to exactly what you want. Red 33, green, blue. So up and down, and then press in to toggle. I think it goes up to like 60 or 80 or something. So you can see I'm adding a lot of green here. It's getting green. But I'm going to turn this back down because I like it red because it matches the display well in this car. And then exit to get back out of here. So that's for the key. No. Back out of here. And then the display, press to go in, and then you can change all your display, all different colors, guys. These are all the standard colors. It's got even where it'll scan through different colors. I don't care for any of that. The coolest thing, again, is custom. Press and hold on custom, and you can sit and customize it. So I added a little red, a little green, because I was trying to go for an orange to match some of the other orange stuff in my car, which is so cool because you can sit and tweak this thing so finely to get it to just match the dash of your car, which is really awesome. It makes the stereo look more like a piece of your car rather than just some aftermarket thing you threw in. This is a really cool feature that Pioneer put in, I think. It may seem I don't know, like excessive, but I think it's a really cool thing to get this to match exactly your car. I had a brilliant green going in my other car that I sold because my other car had a green dash and it looked awesome. It matched the car really well. So the customized display and key color is a really cool feature of this radio. And function depends on what mode you're in. Keep in mind. So right now when I'm on FM, I'm only getting function adjustments for FM. If I go to like USB and then I go back in here, I'm going to get different features. Shuffle mode, shuffle all. This looks like stuff for the iPhone because I'm in USB 1, which is my iPhone. Let's go to USB 2, which is my USB card. And we're going to get functions for that device. So audio, this is global, meaning if you make adjustments to audio, it affects all your sources. Entertainment is global. Illumination is global. The only one that's specific to the source is the function you're in. That's pretty much what I want to show you. This radio sounds good. It's clean. It's much faster than an AVIC. And when you hook it up to a big amplifier system, it's absolutely heavenly. The sound quality is heavenly. I'm not doing that in this car yet, but I might do that one day soon. So, hope you enjoyed the review, guys. And it's a great one, din. I like it. And I hope Pioneer can make tuned-ins work as clean as this soon.